Black Trash, Justice Work and the Ghetto Poor, and Pro-Life Politics and Rhetoric Slavery and Guilt. Chapter 2 by Charles W. Mills is about blacks who are thought to be as disposable and useless. This article describes how our political system is dominated by a majority of white people. The political theorists do not accept non-whites in political work, nor their input. African Americans are not being given an equal amount of say into what is constitutionalized in our society. There is a social contract that only permits whites as a superior race. This idea affects the ability of a variety of racial groups. Partially, what this article is saying is that whites, partially through politics, have created an illusion of white superiority by making it so the image that comes to mind when we think of the law, politics, and government is one of solely white board of members. This image works to eliminate the consideration of any other racial groups when it comes to something as significant, and not to mention powerful, as our primary law enforcers. Quoted in this chapter is Arnold Toynbee, who says that anyone in our nation who is not white should be considered a native because they are seen as wild animals infesting the country in which we happen to come across. Not only is Toynbee's statement in every which way an abomination to the progress we as a nation have made towards racial equality, but also works to completely undermine the importance of diversity in not only our day-to-day lives, but also our political system. Without diversity, we will not be able to utilize contrasting perspectives and will struggle to make any further progress as a society. Chapter 6, Pro-Life Work and the Ghetto Poor by Tommy Shelby. The ghetto poor is insured to get welfare benefits. Ghettos in the U.S. are predominantly black that do not even include European white immigrants. Joblessness is said to increase violent crime. Jobless and employment are two completely different meanings. Jobless means able-bodied adults who are looking for work, and unemployed signifies able-bodied adults who don't have a job or for other reasons than retirement and have dropped out of the workforce. Jobs for the ghetto poor are unavailable. There is a mismatch between jobs and skills because more people with skills and more experience are getting hired over others who aren't skilled in the particular task. There is still employment discrimination in low-wage markets based on the grounds of race and gender, which is a disadvantage for the people who are poor and live in the ghettos. Voluntary joblessness is when people who live in the ghettos choose not to work simply because it angers other, higher-class U.S. citizens. Some choose not to work because of unfairness and low positions that leads to people who are not motivated to work at all. Others in the ghetto accept non-work as a form of protest against the system. Many complain that non-working aren't trying to help contribute to society, but simply just benefiting from the production of other contributors, which is not seen as just or fair to the other hard-working U.S. citizens in each society. Blacks have a civil duty, meaning that you don't need to work to be a full citizen in this country. Reciprocity is the practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit, which blacks that live in the ghetto do not follow this enactment. Well, at least some of them. But the ghetto poor refuse to cooperate with New York workers the New York work regime because they believe it mandates demeans and stigmatizes them. There is a stigma against residential neighborhoods, which they call hoods, and they are known to be as dangerous. And the stereotype against the ghettos or black people is that black people are just lazy. Chapter 7: Pro-Life Politics and the Rhetoric Slavery by Lisa Gunther. There are two pro-life groups, Life Always and the Radiance Foundation, both represented by black citizens. Their goal was to abandon slavery. They compared abortion to the abolition of slavery through the 13th Amendment. The argument was, if we respect and defend the civil rights of all persons, black or white, then we should respect and defend the sanctity of all human life. Dred Scott was a slave that was refused freedom from the master's widow wife. That was really illegal, and he was not legitimate property of the master or the master's wife. This ties in to how the baby is a slave and the personhood is being controlled by the mother, which is basically the master. So basically, the pro-life groups are trying to utter that if black women get abortions, they are basically said to be hypocrites because it's the same deed of when white people enslaved blacks and dictated their lives for the benefit of the masters themselves. The conclusion is, these three articles can be related in the way that our society does not seem to hold a high regard toward African Americans in our political system and society. Certain ideas about white superiority that come from our government and how they are depicted. The racial contract explains that the actual body politic is that of the white body, the superior, and the political relations of racial domination. If we begin to enforce a different set of standards and intrinsic morals when it comes to developing societies, we can begin to eliminate discrimination. African Americans have the civic duty and right to do as they please as long as it's illegal. As it's legal, just like any other U.S. citizen. No one can tell them that their methods aren't morally correct in a society.